Hi, and welcome to the Dish on Divorce. I'm Jennifer Barkin.
And I'm Leanne Townsend. Today we are really excited to have as our guest Carmelia Ray, matchmaker extraordinaire, celebrity matchmaker, dating expert. And so naturally, we're going to be talking about dating after divorce. So welcome to the show, Carmelia.
Thanks, Leanne, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, we're really excited to have you here. And so why don't you just start off by telling your listeners a little bit about what you do and your background?
Well, I'm a matchmaker and I do help people. I'm also a coach and an online dating expert. So specifically in the area of divorce, I help divorced singles get back in the dating game. And that could include, figuring out what their partner goals are. Also just going over some of their relationship history to make sure they avoid making the same mistakes. And a lot of times when singles, they've been married a long time. So 20 years ago, the choices for dating is different than now. So some singles have never even seen a dating app or, have an Instagram account or Facebook or any of those things. So I'm also finding I'm teaching divorced singles like what the options are. And to top it all off, we're in the pandemic. So figuring out where they should date, the technology to use, whether it's Skype or Google Meet or Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm just helping people connect.
Well, I think that's amazing. And I know myself, I was married for 10 years together with my ex-husband 12 years. And I found when I had to go back out there into the dating pool, I was 40 years old. And before my ex-husband, I had been with someone for 6 years. So I felt like I hadn't dated in 18 years. And when I had dated, I was in university. It was easy.
Can you remember that experience coming out of your divorce, thinking, what am I going to do?
It was scary.
Yeah.
And I thought, I looked down, at the time I looked down on online dating. Right. So I didn't want to do it. And people were encouraging me to try it and I didn't want to.
Why didn't you want to?
To me, it had a stigma at the time. It was newer out and I just, it had a bit of a stigma and I just didn't think I'd be able to find what I was looking for. So I've done it all. I've worked with, a long time ago, I worked with a matchmaker. I've done speed dating. I've done online dating. I've done meeting people. And I'm still single, but but I've tried them all.
That's great.
Did you even know what you were looking for there?
I think the problem was I was looking, like a lot of people, it takes you a while to get out of that pattern of the negative. I was looking for probably a repeat in some ways of my ex-husband and those types of qualities because that's the way. My dad had some similarity.
It's what's familiar.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You gravitate.
I was looking for
Yeah.
the opposite after my divorce. I was more, this is the person my father would have handpicked for me because he checked off all those boxes on paper, right? And I can tell you what those boxes were. In law school, check. Top of his class, check. Ambitious, check. And on my side, it's and the in-laws live in another city. This isn't bad. He's an only child.
Yeah.
But he would have never been who I chose for myself. So when I came out of mine, I wanted the complete opposite. I wanted back to, before I met my ex-husband, what I liked that my parents would tell me, I don't think they exist anymore, but they used to say, you're going to live above a Becker's store. Because I was not encouraged to have a career.
Right.
So I was supposed to marry somebody who would take care of me. And who I was choosing before my ex-husband, I was told I'd live above a Becker's store.
Now, is that common when people come out of their marriage? Do they tend to look for someone who's the opposite of who they were married to, or do they do what I did and I'm still attracted to that type? So,
those are both really great questions, and the answer is that it's mixed. There are some people that tend to keep attracting the same type, And if that type, it doesn't always have to be a bad type, but normally when people come to a matchmaker, they're trying to do something different. They're trying not to attract the same type because that type doesn't work. And then for those who maybe had somebody that maybe was quiet or introverted and maybe they weren't, now they're like, oh, I want somebody who's more outgoing, that can go to family events, that can travel with me. So yes, sometimes they look for that total opposite. If they were dating somebody that was really loud or social, and maybe they want someone now who's a little less, social, and they want to spend time with the family. That it just depends. A lot of relationships break up, as you know, because maybe one partner is away a lot, and the other partner is feeling like they don't really have a physical person there. So it's just quite a mix. And where I try to help is to not go from one extreme to the other, because it's just the person. And I find a big mistake people make is trying to avoid their ex-partner based on what they look like or ethnicity or background, and think that all people that are just similarly like them are going to be exactly the same. And I want to remind people that we're all really unique, right?
That's important.
Yeah.
What are some of the common problems you see with people when they first come out of, to start dating after divorce?
A common problem is a lack of confidence, right? Just really feeling as if, especially if it was an unwanted breakup, then that person might be feeling that, they're not deserving of a partner, or they're just feeling doubtful. Like, they may have an anxious attachment style. And so therefore, instead of allowing a relationship to breathe, they may want to force a connection, and then it just scares people away, right? Another mistake that people make is they have this really long checklist. And the first date feels more like an interview. And they're spending more time in listening for the things that their ex did, or making sure they have 99.9% of all the things, or they're not going to enter the relationship. So they pass up opportunities to date someone that is really a great partner, but may not have everything on the checklist. That's another mistake.
So is it also a mistake on one of the first, second date, whatever, at the beginning, to just lay it all out there? Do people do that? Because you know what? I may as well just put all my dirty laundry out here.
I couldn't have an orgasm for 10 years. I mean, this is an adult show, right? I mean, they'll say things that are not supposed to, he had erectile dysfunction or blah, blah, blah. Or he did, some people haven't had a sit down conversation or date with somebody of the opposite sex for years. Yeah. So this man, you can listen to me. My ex-husband didn't listen, blah, 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 right? And it happens for men too. Men can also, you know what? You should know, here's my issues. I have a bit of a temper. My credit's kind of bad, but I'm going to fix that, So whatever that looks like, yes, there's a little TMI. And the first date is really meant to determine a bit of chemistry. And hopefully you've done as much screening as possible before you're even on that first date. You should know if their marital status, how long they've been out of the relationship, sort of an idea if your values are aligned. If you're divorced with kids, is this somebody that likes kids? How do they see that? What kind of relationship do they have with their ex-partner? I mean, I'm sure with you ladies dealing with some high crisis divorces, imagine somebody wanting to date in the middle of a really difficult divorce, right?
And some of them do. And I've dated people who are in, on the phone with their lawyer or their ex-wife, and it's not an attractive thing to be, drawn into.
Sure.
You mentioned kids, and this is always I think as a mom myself, it's a pet peeve of mine with respect to, rules kind of around when you have children and you're dating.
Yes.
I was always, I think, shaped just by my own childhood. I was always very protective of my children, and I always felt that they didn't need to meet someone unless I was getting serious about them. And that my kids were very young when we split up. So as they've gotten older in their teens and they have their own boyfriends and girlfriends, I don't think it's as big a deal. Yeah. But I I know I've dated people who had me meeting their kids like very quickly, and I was, or they, they have people sleeping over, and the kids are there, which is something, again, I would never do that.
Yeah.
In fact,
you see, everybody's comfort level is so different.
Yeah.
But that's also based on their values, right? And also experience or lack thereof. If somebody really likes you, they may want to just like involve you in that partnership really quickly, right? And at the same time, even though you want to, you have to think, you've always said, we've interviewed each other many times, it's got to be child focused. It's not what you need or want. How is the child going to react? What is the context of this relationship? So I have advised some clients, hey, listen, if you want to spend time with them, then introduce them as mommy's friend, not boyfriend, and make sure your behavior in front of the child isn't romantic. Because then if you're going to have this revolving door, so to speak, of different suitors, you just don't want your child to form this attachment to this person. So just be really careful about that, especially for those who want to. I feel like you shouldn't introduce young kids to partners because they get attached so easily until you've both decided that you're going to take this relationship further.
And that's what the research shows too.
Yeah.
And that's what I do teach people. I said, listen, when the kids are young, whenever the marriage splits up, there's already a loss, right?
Yes.
And now you're going to bring in this new person, and then 3 weeks later, that person's gone, and your children really like that person. And now there's another. It's really unhealthy for them.
Yeah, they don't understand.
They don't, and it's another loss for the kids.
Yeah. And, I don't know, even my teen, I have a 16-year-old and I have a 23-year-old. Now, a 22-year-old.
Oh, wow, I didn't know you had.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought you just had a 4-year-old.
No, I have 4, 16, and 23. So my 23-year-old, I feel like if something were to happen in my partnership and I started dating, she's an adult now. So it'd be like, I don't like him, I like him. My son, who's still really hormonal and he's 6, I probably wouldn't invite guys around or anything around him because there's also this sense of, I'm a man of the house. And, you know, do you have a teen?
I do. My son's 19. He's very protective of me. And if I date someone who mistreats me, my son gets very upset. And,
I bet.
And, it's sweet. Like, it actually, for me, it is sweet because I don't have another male protector. So my 19-year-old son is it.
So to that point, you also want to be mindful. Just have the conversations with the kids about your dating life. And I think even as preteens, like 9 to 14, it still may be too early to start thinking of inviting somebody into the home or into your, circle. Especially now in the pandemic, you have to really be careful about who's in that bubble. On top of the fact, there's the emotional maturity and now the safety factor.
Yeah, should children though, you see situations too where children are dictating, to their parents about their dating life. So, what do you say to that?
Well, I coached a client who ended the relationship because there was a lack of acceptance on the teen daughter of the man she was dating. And it was very heartbreaking because he could not choose. There wasn't a choice when your daughter is threatening certain things for whatever reason. So I just think that you've got to take each situation differently. Therapy is an option and get to the root cause. Why is there an upset? Because our kids intuitively, do they see things that we may not see? Because we could also have the rose-colored glasses, right? And at the same time, they could be very possessive. And so do you want to allow that behavior? And so then you don't have a life, right? So there's got to be, a way that you've got to think, is there harm? Is this an emotional situation? Are they just trying to buy back time? Like maybe you make an agreement with your child, hey, this isn't going to impact our girls' night on Tuesday, right?
And that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I see this, it's the same in blended families when people are blending a family. The parents chose this. The adults chose this. The children did not.
Right.
And I always say it's very important to spend time with your children from that first relationship alone. Yes. Not always shoving them like, okay, it's Sunday night dinner at the restaurant with her kids, his kids, everybody. You need to make them feel special. It'll help with the new relationship too, because you're showing that this new person did not come between us.
Yeah, you know, I can speak from my own experience because I am in a blended family. So my partner now with our 4-year-old is the stepfather to my older kids. And I remember a few times now looking back thinking my kids would say, do we have to go with him? Not because they don't like him, but it's just, I forget that there is this dynamic between just my kids that they just don't want to involve the other person, right? For whatever
they want
reason.
mom or mommy or whatever.
Yeah, they just want, and they still call me mommy.
And that other person has to feel secure enough.
Yeah.
So, for example, I have a client right now, and it's messy because I just do high conflict.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But it's very messy, and the dad is remarried, and there's 2 little kids. And
2 new little kids?
Yeah.
From the woman's side,
from
okay.
second. Yeah. And everything with the child from the first has to be together. And child is resisting, doesn't want to go as often. And I'm like, you may want to try this.
Sure.
Yeah,
it
doesn't have to be a long time.
I was born in the Philippines, so I'm Filipino-Canadian. And growing up, I had no choice. We just did whatever dad or mom said. But I remember feeling like this sucks.
Yeah.
Like not being able to choose. And I think we have so many tools and resources and experts like yourself to, guide us and to, again, now think that children have a lot of say. We should be thinking about the impact to them. And at the same time, it's that delicate balance between, are you going to let your kids run your life?
Yeah, and it's a hard balance.
It's really difficult. I don't think I'm the expert to answer that question. So I will always, if I'm over my head on something, I'm like, oh my God, you got to talk to a therapist or a mediator. I'll send them to you.
I do therapy as well.
Yeah, so important.
But with families and dating and that sort of therapy. I have a hard question for you.
Sure.
Okay, and some of the viewers may be interested in that. Being an older woman, a lot of older women say that there's no good men out there, and the ones that are out there, they all want a Barbie or arm candy or, somebody 20 years younger. If I was to be a single person now, does that mean I have to start looking at 80 and up? Like retirement homes and
my goodness. Not at all. I mean, I think that's an experience, a very individual experience. And yes, there are older women that are challenged with dating because men, I'm not going to even say typically, older men have preferred younger women because I think it just makes them feel better or youthful. But there are plenty of men that will date appropriately aged women if they feel that they're a match energetically.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Sense.
I think that's what it is.
I'm your age and I'm out there.
I'm older.
I will
say that to I'm older than Leanne.
But I don't have a problem meeting men. But it's for me, to be honest, like part of it is the quality or someone that I connect with. And I know this is like a cliche, but it's been my experiences. I find as a woman, if you tend to be more successful,
there's an intimidation.
There's an intimidation.
Right?
And the reality is, I'm not going to probably be attracted to a guy who, isn't, I don't feel an intellectual connection with. There has to be other types of connection too, but there on some level has to be that intellectual connection. And so that rules out right off the bat, a whole bunch of people.
I will say that ageism is a problem in both sexes. I've had plenty of women that won't date men their age either.
Yeah, I don't get that. I have dated all over the ages.
I get women that feel that the men their age are not up to par, or they're concerned that they're actually going to leave the earth. They have some guys. No, for real.
I was getting
the lifespan of women is older. A nurse or a nurse. Yeah,
I
mean,
a nurse, or
and especially if a woman played a caretaker role. In fact, that's a man or a woman. Anytime someone's played a caretaker role to a deceased partner or a divorced partner, I think they look for youth as the answer to avoid a similar thing.
Yeah,
oh
that
my
makes
God.
Sense.
Sure. So it's case by case. I think if you're dating and you got to be transparent with your age, but if you have a concern about your own energy and you feel like, oh my God, I better get out and walk, or I should take my vitamins, or I got to drink more water. We all can do more and better, I think, to help our bodies and our minds stay sharp. It's so important. And if you're the person that is more of a couch potato, you're totally cool with being chill. It's like, just know that you're going to be realistic is what I want to say.
Because most people aren't. Like,
they're not.
That's what I find,
Yeah.
And
well, I want someone who's fit because I'm not fit. And
I want someone who's gorgeous,
gym.
but I look like a frog. And I want someone who's got tons of money, but I have nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I find people are like.
That exists online for sure. And frankly, Leanne, even when I'm in front of clients, they'll say to me, I want XYZ. And in my head, I'm like, can I actually deliver on that? Let me see.
I would feel the same. Well, do you have XYZ?
Yeah, that's true. It's part of being introspective also. And I tend to think, though, that most of the clients I work with are realistic.
Yeah.
And they also are patient. When you know that you are the top 10% and there's so few of you around by comparison, then don't expect that your equal opposite is falling off like the dating tree.
Yeah,
right?
that makes sense.
It's going to take some work and time.
I have to ask you, because I'm out there in the dating world, so I've got these questions I've got to corner you on.
I'm here.
One of the big problems I experience, and my girlfriends experience, and even guys that I talk to, midlife people out there dating, is what's called, like, it seems like nowadays people want this thing that's called the situationship, where, it's like you're not really in a relationship, but they want all the benefits of a relationship, but yet they're still free to date other people. They're not accountable to you. They can do what they want, but yet you in every other way kind of act like a couple. And like, I have a problem with that in a lot of ways.
Sure.
But I find...
and have you engaged in it?
Oh, I have. I have, for sure. And I've been the one wanting it with certain times too. I'm not going to say that it had,
That's why it's a situationship. It works sometimes, and it doesn't work sometimes, and it depends on the situation.
But a lot of people just don't seem to want to commit. I don't know, maybe that's just my own experience, or it just seems like, we're in this,
polyamorous.
Yeah, like everyone wants to just be dating multiple people.
Polyamory is far more popularized in the younger demographic, which is now Gen Z millennial. No, I still feel that for singles 40 plus, they're still majority open to the traditional monogamous relationship, right? Open relationship is popular. Man, when you can have your cake and eat it too and have no obligation, it's great for the playboy. I find there's a phase that singles can go through when they're getting out of a relationship. So be mindful of the phase of the person that you're dating. If you were cooped up for, in your opinion, like enslaved to this relationship, and you were just doing the obligatory thing and staying with the kids until they left the house, this has happened. I had a client, he's an executive, was married for over 35 years with the same partner. When he got out of a relationship and he hired me, we were going to do one match at a time and find a partner quickly. That didn't happen. He was so enjoying the dating process, but he also realized he had a lot to learn about women in general, right? And so after a year of literally dating a lot of different ladies, being very transparent, and even sometimes dating two at a time, when he met that person. It's when you meet that person, Leanne, I think that you're just like, this is the person.
I agree with that.
I'm going to do the situationship thing. Because sometimes you don't have the choice and you're not in control of that. And other times because you haven't met the one. When you both align, it's like all bets are off and you're going to invest time in each other.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So it's like going to a thrift store, basically.
Yeah, you find that
this
piece.
Is okay, and then no.
It's like,
and then you know when you find it.
Yeah, and you hope somebody else is not like, I'm the same piece. It's like we'd be fighting for it. That's exactly the analogy.
Now, if for someone newly divorced, would they be better off to try online dating or work with a matchmaker, or what are those kind of factors they should consider?
I think they should absolutely book a consultation, at least with a matchmaker, so you have an option. And I do believe they should try online dating, maybe even first, or inside, like, don't knock it till you try it kind of thing. I think a lot of my clients come to me because they did the online dating and they're like, I hate it. I need you, I need someone to help pick for me. And even when I work with singles, I don't discount or completely eliminate the online search. I actually have a team that Matt does the search for them, where we keep an active profile. So we kind of see the climate, or who's responding, what's their profile attracting? Are there any decent people in the market, at least from online dating? So then I can support or say, yes, Leanne, you're right. There's only men with fish here and, lumberjacks and whatever. Or, you know what? We're finding a lot of appropriate candidates. So, it's just a matter of keeping your hopes up and showing you that, yes, between every 100 profile, there's a good option.
I would think sometimes, though, with the online dating, you're attracting the wrong people because of how you wrote your description about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's a professional. They can write their LinkedIn profile, but you need a completely different set of skills to write an attractive and compelling dating profile. You're pulling from feminine energy, flirtatious language. It's good copy. It's good dating copy, to be honest. You're marketing yourself.
Years ago, one of my really close friends, and she was going on the online dating, and she wrote this thing, and she wrote, a good sexual relationship is very important to me. I said, you're not putting that. I said, because it's important to everybody, and you're going to be attracting every creeper under the sun. You got to take that down.
And the fact that she said sexual is one thing. You can transfer the sexual to intimacy. I value deep intimacy and connection. And you don't have to say sex. The minute you say sex, it's
you know what it means.
Yes.
But you don't have to, I think the minute you say, I want
you can even
a great
say,
sexual relationship.
I want a passionate partner. Like, ooh, I'm passionate. You can read between the lines, but as soon as you put sex, it's like, oh man, you're getting the eggplant photos in your in your DMs for sure.
Well, and do people, even I don't know, maybe I'm underestimating some men here, but I always wonder, like, do they even read my? I always feel like they're looking at the pictures. Yeah, like if you have good pictures, it doesn't matter what your profile
Here's
says.
the order of what happens. They will swipe on your photo if they like your photo. They'll look at other photos if they like the main photo. Then they'll skim your bio.
Right.
That's the order. Photo, other photos. All right, let me take a read. Yeah. The first thing men are looking for is attraction.
The physical.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
you're not going to swipe on a guy. Now, you swipe on a guy that's average looking, because women, I think, we can fix our men up, right? Like we can see behind the beard and all that other stuff, and I can fix clothes. But we see the occupation type or the educational type. It's a fixer-upper. I can deal with that, right? So sometimes it's what they prioritize.
Project. I don't want a project.
So, some people will say it's a project, right?
Or the height. Like this is one of the things that always gets me, because I'm 5'4", so I'm, I consider myself maybe an average height for a woman. I wear a pair of heels. I'm maybe 5'6". But I have a lot of girlfriends where height is this big issue. And it drives me crazy because it's like, you could meet this wonderful guy who has everything else you're possibly looking for, but because he's 5'10" and not 6'1",
so I think that's the biggest mistake women make, 100%. The biggest mistake women make. And the biggest mistake men make is to judge a woman's body type, right? I think or age. Men, body type and age, and then women, it's the height and then the income or occupation, right? They make that, or some women, a lack of the education. See, I work with so many entrepreneurs, so for me, and for many of my clients, the educational part isn't been the biggest priority.
For me, it is, but I mean, my father was very successful in business, and he was a high school dropout, so I certainly know that, education doesn't necessarily lead to, success, but generally I would say that maybe because I have a lot of it, I tend to look for someone who at least has a bit.
Fair. I mean, that's fair. And I think it's just a matter of what can you compromise on?
Yeah.
What are your absolutes? Like those deal breakers, right?
That's what I would say.
What are your absolute deal breakers? Because I can see if someone says, a 5'2" woman that says minimum 6 foot tall, I think that's actually ridiculous, personally.
And the 6 foot tall always goes out with the little girl.
So it's just, height I don't think is one of those things that anyone should really prioritize.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Carmelia.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was fun.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like I have a whole bunch more questions.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you back for
I
a part
would love
2.
to come back for sure. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to our listeners. I'm Leanne Townsend.
And I'm Jennifer Barkin.
And this was The Dish on Divorce. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.